Return of the dynamic duo from Merton. Here they are, Keith and Suzanne Drake.
Last year we were lucky enough to be invited to the Marcel Festival in Herne Bay. It was to celebrate a visit he made in Herne Bay 100 years ago. And this is the poem we wrote and performed for that occasion. It's called Dialogue with Marcel in the style of Jeeves and Worcester. Why should we paint the eyelashes on an ant?
Because we can, sir, because we can.
Why did Mr. Turner paint mist, steam and sea spray?
Because he could, sir, because he could.
Does a flashy show of artistic ability justify a transaction?
Indeed it might, sir, indeed it might.
Whistler's nocturnes, were they not a pot of paint flung in the face of the public?
According to Mr. Ruskin, they were, sir, and it cost him a brass farthing.
And would I be right in thinking that a certain Monsieur Duchamp exhibited a urinal in an exhibition entitled The Fountain?
Yes, sir.
But I could do that.
It's a matter of context, sir.
My children could do that.
With respect, sir, it's probably outside your children's frame of reference.
It's outrageous. This modern stuff is the product of childlike minds.
Quite possibly, sir. For every now and then, an innovator searches for authenticity. There's a radical shift in thinking. May I refer, sir, to the work of Andy Warhol?
I don't want referring.
As you wish, sir.
These things change hands for vast amounts. How do you justify that?
I don't, sir, I don't.
Who values this rubbish?
Merely an in-game, sir, played by the denizens of La-di-da lands.
It's madness, I tell you.
Well, sir, life could be good, life could be grand, if you live and love and work in La-di-da land. Chapeau, Marcel!
She screamed out violently. Oh my God! While lying on her back in a hospital ward. Her feet were in loops and her legs were in the air. She sucked internox, it was more than she could bear. She cursed the devil and praised the Lord, said put me to sleep but don't cut the cord. He's horrible, he's vile, he's covered in slime. He looks like he's been drowned in lager and lime. There's something wrong, his mouth is all slack. I don't want the little bastard, please shove him back. Call for the doctor, get Melanie Klein. I've given birth to a monster. I'm Mummy Frankenstein. Mother's kindly words of comfort didn't put me off. I was dazzled by the lights, so I had a little cough. They stuffed me in an orphanage in the dead of night. I frightened all the cats, but the staff were all right. They tied up our shoes, and if anyone got restive, they'd try to calm them down with a chocolate digestive. At school and exams I'd be near the bottom, behind rows of teachers' pets I'd be quite forgotten. As we grew older the atmosphere got meaner. I learnt to lie and swear and spit and gargle semolina. Later on in class I became a clown. Piaget, Piaget, they all fell down. I couldn't do sums or pass the Wechsler test. I was ugly, stupid and wore a grubby vest. Now this may sound daft, wanky-fied or silly, but I pined for the fragrance of someone soft and frilly. Anxious, unfulfilled and still a lonely sod. I was examined by a doctor who thought that he was God, saying, yeah, you don't know where you're being, all at sea you've been, your identity is non-existent, you're just an empty screen. You need to paint a picture, one that you can face, of your geographical position in life and time and space. I didn't know what to do, I was doubly confused. So I went round the corner and got me some tattoos. A parrot on my calf, a dragon on my arm, a monkey climbing up my thigh gave me a modicum of charm. To avoid swank or any hint of pomposity, on each fist I had printed kindness and generosity. My confidence increased, it didn't take a shrink to convince me, 'cause I strolled about the world's great stage like a walking Kandinsky. Bringing with confidence and vigorous mental health, I hit the Tower of London and exhibited myself. Stripped to me pants, resplendent in blue inks, I'd pass the hat around and listen for the clinks. Amongst the crowd, the headless ghosts and children of all nations, I'd watch their eyes, intrigued, transfixed by my sinuous creations. Japanese girls in ankle socks, Dutchies, frogs and Berbers, Czechs, Lithuanians and gargantuan Yankee burgers. They all cued to video, poke, push and shove me, fascinated by the slogan on my chest, screaming, "Love me, love me, love me." Pete mentioned this earlier, it's almost Midsummer's Day, so I thought I'd perform something called Christmas cards. I'm still here apparently, a triangle of polar bears, a tower of acrobatic penguins, and a cartoon partridge in a pear tree tell me. So thank you Frederico and Barry, Linda, Chris and Sally, Jesse, Christo and Dave. And did anyone speak more truly than Julie? So thank you Captain Computer and teacher of the Italian game. Cheers Mr. Martian adman of Cadbury Smash fame. And we're honoured Surrey champion. You remembered again. I'm thrilled our Liverpool lecturer took time to write, and our lawyer friend who supports the consumer's fight. Hats off to my old Battersea buddy, a history professor after 40 years study. My Fenland painter, you've passed many a test, but we always knew you were the best. And Julie, I dreamt of you on many a night, the only college girl with a theodolite. 381 years we've been acquainted. We've drunk, we've argued, we've shagged, we've painted. This seasonal tosh could move one to tears when I consider your distinguished careers. You've all raced from the gun to the top of the tree, so why the hell do you want to know me?
The bottom dropped out. I had to scream and shout. I went round the bend on hearing of your little friend, almost a teenager, so they say, pretty in an anemic way. The Esso station's female assistant, the one who looks a bit vague and distant. You had my life gift-wrapped, you weasel. I open knickers, smell of diesel.
Looking out the window. I was always looking out the window, nothing to do. When they did give me something, I couldn't understand, so I looked out the window. They thought I was lazy, stupid, not worth talking to. So I looked out the window, built a barricade of telephone directories, box files and insouciance. 8 hours of isolation stretched cramped limbs to infinity. So I looked out the window, where a gash of purple and orange sang its way across a radical sky. Through a chink in the barricade, your pleated skirt swayed around your firm legs as you determined your way to the door. An hour later, under those untamable skies, we walk together through St James's Park. This is a little bit of fun that we hope everyone can relate to, or at least in private. It's called They Ding Their Dongs.
They dinged their dongs on a Friday night when the chip shop lights were sizzling bright. That's where they dinged their dongs.
The LSO dinged as they struck up chords. They dinged so well they won awards. A few gold medals and a silver sword. Eternally, they dinged their dongs.
They dinged their dongs in Parliament Square, but the electorate didn't really care. If you've got curry and a nice warm chair, who cares about dinging dongs?
They dinged their dongs on the rugby pitch. That number 8 was such a bitch. He chased the hooker down in a ditch where together they dinged their dongs.
They dinged their dongs with feminine relish. They dinged so much they thought they'd perish, 'cause dinging together was such a joy, so much better than a boy. In liberation, they dinged their dongs.
Queen Victoria said, "This is such a to-do. I don't want our women a dinging too. I shall not ding my dong."
Now our girls ding their dongs at the censer sales in flimsy things that just cover their tails. And they ding with a vigour that would poleaxe males. In jubilation, they ding their dongs.
Mr. Patrick applied for an Arts Council grant to ding a dong for his maiden aunt. But the burghers of Merton said, "No, you can't, so bugger off to Folkestone." I have been known to ding myself, though I have to do it with great stealth, as they say too much can affect your health. So cross-eyed, I ding my dong.
Therefore, friends, do your duty. You know you must, for dinging cures lumbago, boils and lust.
And do it now, before we turn to dust, to the echo of a dinging dong. Bugger off to Folkestone.
Who's being played with my microphone?
Oh no.
Well,
Floor.
pause for contemplation of drink spilled. Keith and Suzanne, after the poetry reading tonight, are going to be running a workshop in the bar about the meaning of modern art. It could be quite heated, and thanks for uncovering my guilty secret. So, more applause please for Keith and Suzanne Drake. I'd like to welcome back onto the stage in our lovely jumping June evening, which I hope you'll agree has been jumping, Lisa Kelly.
Thank you. Digging a dong here. Yeah, that's great. I love that, the playfulness of that. And I'm pleased I've chosen this poem to start off the second set, because hopefully you'll think it's playful. If anybody remembers playing that game, What's the Time, Mr. Wolf? You know, and anyway, I'm sure you do, going back to your childhood. But I've taken this on to sort of get across the idea of temptation. You know, it's summer, it's hot, we're taking our clothes off, and we've got to resist temptation. What's the time, Mr. Wolf? Not 12 o'clock, not yet. That midi l'apéritif moment, nibbles and absinthe sips, the green fairy hovering as we play in the magic wood. But think about the 12 steps. Think about abstinence. Think about what happens when you binge. Too unsteady to dodge the woodcutter's axe, the vet's syringe. A step towards you is a step backwards. Too little distance, too close, too dangerous.